So, speaker, you want to get booked on more stages. So, I'm talking to you today, that aspiring speaker, that early beginner speaker, or even that moderately booked speaker who's going, I want to make this part-time thing or this dream my full-time gig. I want to become a highly paid professional speaker. I want to speak on stages. This is what I want to do. This is my dream. How do I do that? All right. And so recently on the Influential Personal Brand podcast, I interviewed Joe Heaps, who is the CMO. He's in charge of marketing and sales strategies for eSpeakers, which is an online speaker matching service with meeting planners. And so we had a conversation around some industry trends of like what's working to help get speakers booked in today's market. And today, I mean 2024. And what do we need to know as speakers that will help us grow our speaking business? So I wanted to share some of those highlights from that interview and a more condensed recap version for you. So there's just a few things I thought were really helpful that I want to share with you to help you build that speaking business this year. So the first thing, I thought this was really fascinating. As Joe mentioned, he goes, the number one misstep that I see early beginner speakers make is they make all of their speaker press kits, even their demo videos, all about their credentials versus what am I going to do for you, right? And I see this all the time too. In fact, I've made this mistake before where I start with the very first page of my speaker press kit is my bio. And it's like, hey, AJ Vaden is a entrepreneur, speaker, author, blah, 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 blah. And it's all about me. And it's like, well, we can get to that. But what this meeting planner needs to know is right up front in that very first line, what are you going to do for me, right? So it's what he calls the audience benefit statements. What are the payoffs? What are the takeaways that my audience is going to leave from your session, right? So you've got to start with the audience in mind as well as the buyer in mind. In this case, the buyer is the meeting planner or the committee or whoever's going to book that speaker. But they need to know it's like, what are you going to do for my audience? What are you going to do for me? Not what are all of your credentials? And then I loved what he said. He said, then the second biggest mistake that I see that speakers make is that if they start with that, then there's no transition and they immediately go into, and I'm a, New York Times bestselling author, podcast host, and there's a complete disconnect between what were the benefit statements that we were just talking about and who I am as a speaker and as a person. He said, so as that transition happens from the audience benefit statements, such as, hey, I am a engaging speaker who's going to bring humor to the audience. So if you're looking for entertainment value, then we need that transition statement to go, hey, as a 20-year stand-up comedian, and use your bio as an actual part of the proof process to the benefit statements. Make sure that there is a natural transition of whatever you just said in the benefit statements about what they can expect from you as a speaker, what are the benefits that they're going to get from hiring you as a speaker, right? The takeaways, what the audience is going to leave with. Make sure that's the first thing that you talk about when you get to your bio. It's not, hey, and AJ is it's like, no, we need to make sure that the very first things in our bio are giving the proof and the evidence from whatever we just said in the benefit statements of how our experience and our expertise gives us the right to talk about these things. And it's the proof that I actually know what I'm talking about. Then you can add in all of those other credentializing things. And so the way to do that is just a very, very articulate way of going. We have to start with the audience in mind, the buyer in mind, i.e. the meeting planner. What do they want to hear first? And then use our bio as a way to give proof to every statement that you just said. And that's what they're looking for on that very first page of a speaker press kit, or the very first thing they see on the About Us on your website. But it's like, hey, what are you going to do for me? What's the very first thing I want to know is what kind of speaker are you and what are the benefits of your speech, not the features. The features are all about you. The benefits are what are you going to do for my audience? And I thought that was just a very good, simple way of thinking about it. Second thing, and we talk about this all the time in different formats, but I loved his little take on demo videos. He said, honestly, some meeting planners are going to want to see 30 minutes of stage footage, some 15-minute sizzle reel. You see those popular. He said, but I'll tell you, most often, what most people are looking for is some sort of 30 second to 2 minutes. That is so short, y'all. 30 seconds to 2 minute clips of you on stage. He goes, they're not looking for testimonials in that 2 minutes. They're not looking for where you've spoken, what media you've been on. There's no voiceovers. It's like, nope, I need you right up front on stage doing the best thing that you do, right? So, and it needs to be on the content. And it's like, when you think about 2 minutes is not a lot of time. You can't be fitting in all that other stuff in there. And there are so many different opinions on what makes a great demo video. Other people say it's like, hey, 5 minutes. And we do want that production value. We do want the credibility and the testimonials. But Joe's take on it, he goes, the very first thing they need to see is you on stage. He goes, if you want to add all that stuff after the fact, make sure it's after the 2 minutes. But that first 30 seconds to 2 minutes needs to be you doing your thing with the best content you have. We need to see audience engagement. We need to see audience reactions. And we need to see you doing your craft. And that's what we want those first 2 minutes. And then if you want to extend it past that with testimonials and all the other stuff, that's fine. Or make separate videos for that. But just give us 2 minutes of the best you've got on stage. And that's what meeting planners want to see. Thought that was super helpful and insightful. Last thing I want to share is just something about fees, because that's always coming up. And so I asked him, it's like, what do you see as the best way to set fees? And there's a couple of different things that he shared that I thought was really great. And he said, just remember, if you're a beginner, if you're just starting out, just speak. If you get paid, it's bonus. But speak because you want to speak. And you get paid $50, $200, $500. He goes, just say yes. The more you speak, the more you speak, right? We say that all the time at Brand Builders Group. But if you want to speak and you're just starting out, you just say yes. You take the gig, and then you take it again, and then you take it again. And you follow basic laws of supply and demand. And the lower the supply, the higher the demand, your fees go up. So as we're talking about someone who is getting booked for fees, and you are doing this, what are those early beginner set fees that you're seeing most often on e-speakers? And he said, what I would consider a beginner speaker who maybe doesn't even have a demo video yet, but they have just some clips on stage. He said maybe they've been doing this for a year or so. They're not booked, but they're getting booked sometimes. He goes, somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000 is where we see most people at a beginner level. Regardless of what you set your fees at, I think that's probably an accurate picture of what it looks like as a beginner. He said, then we start seeing that supply and demand factor. The more you get booked, the more demand you have, then those fees start rising up. He said, but I would say the average speaker on our site, which they've got more than 20,000 speakers, is between $7,500 and $10,000. And those are people who've got systems in place. They're doing this pretty frequently. This has become their full-time thing. And those are their average fees. And he goes, and then what we're seeing for us anyways, anyone above 10,000 is someone who is booked out, right? So they are either booked out, they have had some sort of a content event. So their content has gone viral. They had a TED Talk. They had a best-selling book. They had some sort of what I would call life event. So they climbed Mount Everest, or, they survived a plane crash, or they have some unique life event, which is rare, or they've had some sort of content that has made them available to increase their fees to a certain level. And I just think following that as a basic guidelines as you're setting out to build your speaking career, and specifically over the next 12 months of just like, where am I at today and where do I want to be of going, you just start speaking until you can get paid. And then the more you get paid, just know those beginner level fees, it's very normal to start around $2,500. Even if you know you're worth more than that, you'll get paid worth more than that. But the more you speak, the more you speak. So just a couple of insights around press kits, demo videos, and fees as we set out into the year to help you build your speaking career. Hope that helps. If you want to check out the full episode, it's with Joe Heaps from eSpeakers on the Influential Personal Brand Podcast, and I'll see you soon.